Latin 2, the reading for Chapter 6, Latin for the New Millennium, Level 2, Second Edition, Part 2, the first two paragraphs. Here's paragraph 1, lines 1 through 5. It starts out, Theodosius, Imperator Romanus, Clarissimus, okay? Clarissimus is a superlative form. It's the superlative form of Clarus. Clarus means famous or distinguished. So Clarissimus means very distinguished or very famous. We'll say very famous, or it could be most distinguished. We'll say very very distinguished. Remember, it's a superlative, so it can be translated with most or very. Theodosius, a most distinguished Roman emperor, habuit had tres filias, three daughters, pulcherimus, most beautiful. In other words, three most beautiful daughters. Pulcherimus is a superlative form. It means most beautiful. So he had three most beautiful daughters. Again, with the superlative, you can also translate it three very beautiful daughters. You can do it that way as well. Quodam die, your book tells you means on a certain day. It comes from, the quodam comes from quidam, quidam, quodam, which is a very important word. It's made by taking the forms of qui, quai, quod, which we learned long ago. That's the interrogative adjective or the relative pronoun. They both look alike. And adding the suffix dom. So quidam, quidam, quodam is qui, quai, quod plus dom. And it has a special use in Latin. Quidam, quidam, quodam declines, as I say, like qui, quai, quod with the dom added. And it goes with nouns to tell you that this is the first time we've talked about the noun. It's used to introduce new people and things in a story. It's often translated in English as a certain. So quodam die is an ablative of time, and it means on a certain day. And the a certain in English is trying to tell us that we haven't talked about this before, and English gets that effect with quidam, quidam, quodam. By the way, quo is the ablative singular qui, quai, quod, so quodam is the ablative quidam, quidam, quodam, and it agrees with die, which is the ablative singular of the word for day. So on a certain day, he asked his eldest daughter. Natu maximum is interesting. Maximum means biggest or greatest. It's actually the superlative of the word magnus. So it means if magnus means great, maximum means greatest. Or if magnus means big, maximum means biggest. So this is biggest. And the word natu is kind of strange. Natu means in birth. And it's used in expressions like this to give people's age, okay? So maximum natu means biggest in birth or greatest in birth. And what that means is oldest, okay? Oldest. And it's the maximum is describing the filium. So this is on a certain day, he asked his oldest daughter, quantum patrem diligeret, how much she loved her father. This is an indirect question. How much she loved her father, right? And notice how the verb must be in the imperfect subjunctive. It's imperfect subjunctive because rogavit, which is past tense, puts it into secondary sequence. And it's the imperfect subjunctive is used because this action is incomplete with respect to rogavit. The loving or the liking is still going on when the asking occurred, right? So on a certain day, he asked his oldest daughter how much she loved her father. Then, or tunc filia, te inquit. Remember, the word inquit in Latin means he, she, or it said, and it always comes after the beginning of a direct quotation. It's used to introduce direct quotations, that is when you're giving people's exact words, but it has to come after that. So weird things happen with the word order. This is, then the daughter said. But the Latin only goes, then the daughter you said. And the you, the beginning of the quote, intrudes there in the middle. We would never do that in English. But the way to handle this in English is to say, then the daughter said. Okay? And what did she say? She says, you, diligo, I love more strongly than me. Okay, so I love you more strongly than me, right? And so vehementius, by the way, is a comparative adverb, more strongly. And the word quam, by the way, is the Latin word for than. So I love you more strongly than me. In English, we would say, I love you more strongly than myself. But you may remember that Latin doesn't have a separate word for me and myself in this instance, okay? Okay. These words pleased the emperor. Notice placuerant is the perfect of the word placio, placere, placavi, placatum, and it means pleased. And remember, it takes a dative, so the emperor has to be in the dative. You could translate were pleasing to the emperor in the dative. Vehementissime, here is a superlative adverb. It means most strongly or very strongly, or probably just very much in English. So these words please the emperor most strongly. Et filium rege omnium praeclarissimo dedit. Okay, praeclarissimo is another word or another superlative, and it means very outstanding or most outstanding. So, and he gave his daughter to a king, most outstanding of all. Okay, so the king is being described as being sort of most outstanding of all, the most outstanding king of all. We might say in English, he gave his daughter to the most outstanding king of all. And now we have a purpose clause, ut, in order that in order that the king lead her into matrimony. Remember, in Latin, the expression for to marry, when a man marries a woman, is to lead a woman. So he leads her into matrimony. And that's just an expression in Latin that means to marry her. So these words pleased the emperor very, very strongly. And he gave his daughter to the most outstanding king of all, in order that the king might take her into matrimony, I guess is what we would say in English. Here's paragraph 2. Post haec, this means after this, or literally after these things. This is a neuter plural. Post is a preposition. Remember, there are several words for after in Latin. Post quam is the subordinating conjunction. It has to have a full clause after it. It can't have a noun. Post is a preposition, and it goes before a noun or a pronoun like this. So post haec, after these things, imperator ad filium secundum velit. The emperor came to his second daughter and asked her quantum patrem diligeret, how much she loved her father. Tunc filia secunda, then the second daughter, inquit said, tantum te diligo quantum me. So, I like you or I love you. Tantum means so much. Quantum means how much. Me, myself. So, I love you so much. How much myself. In other words, I love you as much as myself. Okay? So tantum quantum as a team means as much as. The tantum is as much and the quantum is as. Literally, it's so much, how much. That's how Latin says as much as. Okay? So we have here. Then the second daughter said, I love you as much as myself. These words pleased the emperor sufficiently well. Satis means sufficiently and bene means well, sufficiently well. And he gave his second daughter to a certain duke. Again, quidam is the dative of quidam, quidam, quodam. Remember, qui is the dative singular, qui, quid, quad, so quidam is the dative of quidam, quidam, quodam. And this means to a certain duke. We have not talked about this duke before, or this duke. So we're using this word quidam to mark it out. And the way we do that in English is with the expression a certain. And he gave his daughter, or his second daughter, to a certain duke, in order that the duke would take her in marriage. Again, this is a purpose clause with a subjunctive verb. That's the end of the first two paragraphs. We're now going to move on to the third and fourth paragraph.